Central Park is an urban park between the Upper West Side and Upper East Side neighborhoods of Manhattan in New York City, and the first landscaped park in the United States. It is the sixth largest park in the city, containing 843 acres, and the most visited urban park in the United States, with an estimated 42 million visitors annually as of 2016. It is also one of the most filmed locations in the world. The creation of a large park in Manhattan was first proposed in the 1840s, and a 778-acre park approved in 1853. In 1858, landscape architects Frederick, Olmsted and Calvert Vaux won a design competition for the park with their Greensward Plan. Construction began in 1857. Existing structures, including a majority black settlement named Seneca Village, were seized through eminent domain and razed. The park's first areas were opened to the public in late 1858. Additional land at the northern end of Central Park was purchased in 1859, and the park was completed in 1876. After a period of decline in the early 20th century, New York City Parks Commissioner Robert Moses started a program to clean up Central Park in the 1930s. The Central Park Conservancy, created in 1980 to combat further deterioration in the late 20th century, refurbished many parts of the park starting in the 1980s. The park's main attractions include the Ramble and Lake, Hallett Nature Sanctuary, the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, and Sheep Meadow, amusement attractions such as Wallman Rink, Central Park Carousel, and the Central Park Zoo, formal spaces such as the Central Park Mall and Bethesda Terrace, and the Delacorte Theater. The biologically diverse ecosystem has several hundred species of flora and fauna. Recreational activities include carriage horse and bicycle tours, bicycling, sports facilities, and concerts and events such as Shakespeare in the park. Central Park is traversed by a system of roads and walkways and is served by public transportation. Its size and cultural position make it a model for the world's urban parks. Its influence earned Central Park the designations of National Historic Landmark in 1963 and of New York City Scenic Landmark in 1974. Central Park is owned by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation but has been managed by the Central Park Conservancy since 1998, under a contract with the municipal government in a public-private partnership. The Conservancy, a nonprofit organization, raises Central Park's annual operating budget and is responsible for all basic care of the park. Central Park is bordered by Central Park North at 110th Street, Central Park South at 59th Street, Central Park West at 8th Avenue, and 5th Avenue on the east. The park is adjacent to the neighborhoods of Harlem to the north, Midtown Manhattan to the south, the Upper West Side to the west, and the Upper East Side to the east. It measures 2.5 miles from north to south and 0.5 miles from west to east. Central Park is split into three sections: the north end, extending above the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir, mid-park, between the reservoir to the north and the lake and conservatory water to the south, and south end, below the lake and conservatory water. The park has 5 visitor centers: Charles A. Dana Discovery Center, Belvedere Castle, Chess and Checkers House, the Dairy, and Columbus Circle. The park has been described as the first landscaped park in the United States. It has natural-looking plantings and landforms, having been almost entirely landscaped when built in the 1850s and 1860s. It has 8 lakes and ponds that were created artificially by damming natural seeps and flows. There are several wooded sections, lawns, meadows, and minor grassy areas. There are 21 children's playgrounds, and 6.1 miles of drives. There are 4 different types of bedrock in Manhattan. In Central Park, Manhattan schist and Heartland schist, which are both metamorphosed sedimentary rock, are exposed in various outcroppings. The other 2 types, Fordham gneiss and Inwood marble, do not surface in the park. According to a 2011 survey, Central Park had more than 20,000 trees, representing a decrease from the 26,000 trees that were recorded in the park in 1993. The majority of them are native to New York City, but there are several clusters of non-native species. With few exceptions, the trees in Central Park were mostly planted or placed manually. Over 4 million trees, shrubs, and plants representing approximately 1,500 species were planted or imported to the park. In Central Park's earliest years, 2 plant nurseries were maintained within the park boundaries: a demolished nursery near the Arsenal, and the still extant conservatory garden. Central Park Conservancy later took over regular maintenance of the park's flora, allocating gardeners to one of 49 inches zones, for maintenance purposes. Central Park is surrounded by a 29,025-foot-long, 3-foot 10-inch high stone wall. It initially contained 18 unnamed gates. In April 1862, the Central Park Commissioners adopted a proposal to name each gate with the vocations to which this city owes its metropolitan character, such as miners, scholars, artists, or hunters. The park grew to contain 20 named gates by the late 20th century, 4 of which are accessed from plazas at each corner of the park. No named gates were added between 1862 and 2022, when the Gate of the Exonerated at Lenox Avenue and Central Park North was dedicated in honor of the Central Park Five. Central Park is the most visited urban park in the United States and one of the most visited tourist attractions worldwide, with 42 million visitors in 2016. The number of unique visitors is much lower. A Central Park Conservancy report conducted in 2011 found that between 8 and 9 million people visited Central Park, with 37 to 38 million visits between them. By comparison, there were 25 million visitors in 2009, and 12.3 million in 1973. The number of tourists as a proportion of total visitors is much lower. In 2009, 1/5 of the 25 million park visitors recorded that year were estimated to be tourists. The 2011 Conservancy report gave a similar ratio of park usage. Only 14% of visits are by people visiting Central Park for the first time.